Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is the first video I am ever doing. I've been meaning to start a book review channel for quite some time for several reasons. One being that I find a lot of the books I add to my TBR list from BookTube, and I've had some good luck with that. The other is I graduated with a bachelor's in English last year and have had some trouble finding a job. And the contrast between my life now and my life as a student is so stark because I did so well as a literature student. Recently, I said to someone close to me, I have to be good for something besides talking about books. And they said to me, well, if you're good at talking about books, then why don't you try doing something constructive with it? So here I am, doing something constructive with it. I'm gonna try to post at least once a week. At first, just talking about the books I'm reading. Hopefully, eventually, if the channel grows, I'll be able to do videos about some more diverse content, like The Authentic Observer and Hello Future Me Do. Those are two channels I follow and I love, and you should follow them too. But right now, I'm just going to talk about books. Okay? So the rest of this is just going to be a TBR for April. Really should be a TBF because these are books I need to finish, but whatever. Okay, so the first book is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. A lot of booktubers really love Brandon Sanderson. This is the first book of his I've ever read. It's the first book in the Stormlight Archive, which is, I think, a series of 10 books. There's 3 out right now, and I think the 4th one is going to come out next year. So, this is epic high fantasy, though I think it kind of overlaps a little bit into sci-fi, just because most of the fantasy books I've read, like Game of Thrones, their setting is recognizable as Earth, or at least an analog of Earth. The world in which this takes place is very alien. It's in this land that's ravaged by these great storms, high storms, that they just ravage the land, and it just reshapes everything. It reshapes the plants, it reshapes the animals, it reshapes the civilizations. The characters in the book are humans identical to us, so I don't know what that's about. I'm not here to talk about evolution in science fiction, but whatever. It's a pretty massive read. I call books like these bullet stoppers. It's very rich, it's very layered, it's centered around a war that started in the land when a king was assassinated mysteriously for reasons which aren't really clear. It's from the point of view of primarily 4 characters. One of them actually is the assassin, and his sections are really interesting to read because apparently killing is against his religion. Another character is this young aristocratic girl who's trying to sort of connive her way to help her family regain its wealth. Another one is a former surgeon who became a soldier, then got captured and turned into a slave, who gets put on what's called a bridge crew. Their job is to just carry these big... Sorry. Their job is to carry these big bridges so that the armies can march across the chasms that are all over this land. And the other character is a prince, actually the brother of the king, who, before his brother's death, told him to try to restore the ancient codes of honor from this land, the ancient philosophy, because they feel the society is in decline. culturally, I know that's been done to death in fantasy, but this world is so unique and it's so rich and it's so complex. It looks huge. Honestly, I would love to be able to say so far that there are things that could be cut, but they're, at least right now, as far as I've read, I can't say that because everything that's in here needs to be in here, and I will try to have a full review of this as soon as I can, as soon as I finish. So that's The Way of Kings. I'm gonna put this right here. Our next book is The Power by Naomi Alderman. This is, a lot of people are calling this the Handmaid's Tale of this generation. And as you can see, it has a blurb from Margaret Atwood, author of The Handmaid's Tale. So that may be true. Now, this is technically science fiction, but I would more call it speculative fiction because it feels like something that could realistically happen in our world. It takes place in our world, but it just introduces this one element, hypothetical element, and lets it progress. Progress naturally from there. The premise is women and girls all over the world gain the power to generate electricity from their bodies, like electric eels, and they use it to hurt people or even kill them. And gradually, over the period of actually not that long, like maybe 10 years, women start taking over the world. They start giving back the pain that they've been feeling to the men who have been oppressing them. And it's actually written and framed as kind of a pseudo-historical text. The framing is that it's in the future to our present, where this global matriarchy has been established, and it's writing the history of how that happened. This is a book that I really can't wait to do a full review of, because I would love to talk about how this is a book that men need to read. Men need to understand the ideas in this, and it's an important book for men. Obviously you could call this a feminist book, but men would benefit from understanding the ideas presented in here. So that is The Power by Naomi Alderman. I'm going to put that here. Had to get a drink, sorry. So, the next book is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. It's a classic. So this is telling the story of two families over several generations in the Salinas Valley of California, a farming community in the early 20th century. It's kind of their struggle is kind of an allegory for the story of Adam and Eve, of Cain and Abel. And why I find this book interesting is because about a year ago, someone, a fellow English major at my college, said to me, I don't like reading American literature because America doesn't have enough history, we don't have our own mythology. And what makes this book great is because it shows that Americans are capable of creating their own mythology. John Steinbeck is taking the story of regular salt-of-the-earth people and raising it to the level of folklore, the level of legend, and creating, in a way, kind of a founding myth, if not for all of America, but at least for this part of America. And it's so beautiful and so rich, and it's, as far as I've read, it's pretty perfect so far. It's as close, one of those few novels that gets close to perfect. It's great. So that's East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I'm going to put that here. Okay, and the last book is, actually this is the only book that I actually need to start reading this month, is Siege and Storm Siege and Storm. This is book 2 of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I have read Shadow and Bone, and I will be reviewing that. I will be reviewing that soon. This trilogy is part of the Grishaverse series by Lee Bardugo, which is this trilogy, the Six of Crows duology, which is actually about to become a trilogy, and King of Scars, which got released earlier this year. I've been told that you don't need that. Six of Crows and King of Scars is better than this particular trilogy, and that you don't need to read it, but I just want to be sure. So this is a YA fantasy. I read a little bit YA. It's not one of the primary things I read. It's a YA fantasy that takes place in a kingdom similar or based off of pre-revolutionary Russia, Tsarist Russia, before the before the Communist Revolution. I think I'm not that up on my Russian history, but it takes place. The character is this girl Alina. So there are 2 armies in this kingdom. There's the regular army, the regular soldiers, and there is the second army, the Grishas, who have magic powers in various different disciplines, I guess you could call them. And this girl Alina, who's a war orphan, discovers that she is what's called a sun summoner. She can summon the sunlight, which is an ability nobody else has. And the government of the kingdom wants to use her as a weapon, but she finds out that there's more to it than that, and there's, it gets pretty complicated from there. I'm not going to spoil it, but yeah, I read books like this pretty quickly. I can finish a book like this in like maybe a day or two because it's YA. But yeah, so I'm going to put this right here. These are all the books I'm planning on reading in April. Hopefully I will read them all. Thank you for watching my first ever video. I understand it was not the prettiest to look at. The only equipment I have right now is my smartphone and a tripod, which arrived literally today. So my videos are going to be pretty ghetto for a while. Hopefully the channel will grow and I'll be able to set up a Patreon and you guys can donate to me and I can buy some decent equipment. Thank you for watching, and hopefully I'll see you next week. Bye!